to the real estate jam session. I've got an exciting guest today. We're going to talk about investing in real estate in the metaverse. I've got Kristi Waterworth. Kristi is a writer for Motley Fool. If you don't know who Motley Fool is, they are leading insights and analysis on stock markets and investments. If you don't belong to it, you should really check it out. Kristi has been a writer with them for several years, and she's put out a lot of publications on real estate, NFTs, and now the metaverse. So I'm really thankful to have her on. Kristi, thank you for coming on today.
It's nice to be here.
So I'm a real estate investor.
Yes.
I want to invest in this metaverse. It's very confusing to me. I don't know, is that my age? Maybe why am I finding that buying a house, or how do I make money in this thing? And actually, you know what, let's start. First of all, my first question is to go into the metaverse, how do I get there?
That's a really good question, and something that a lot of people are very confused about. There are a lot of different types of technology you can use to get into different metaverses. So there's like the metaverse is like saying like the internet, but there are different platforms and they'll have different hardware requirements. But the bigger ones, the more popular platforms and the ones with the more commercial aspects, you can just access them with your regular PC. Like you don't need a VR headset or anything like that.
Yeah, because see, I pictured I had to go get a VR headset to be able to log in.
And that's part of the problem right now with the messaging, because a lot of like I have to pull images for articles, and when I'm looking for images that are related to the metaverse, like 90% of them have a VR headset involved, which I mean, there are metaverse platforms that require VR equipment, but they're very niche-y, like they're very small. And they're not the ones that we're talking about as far as like real estate investment goes.
Right. You said something is exactly, or maybe you don't know this, is how many different metaverse are there?
That is not a question I can answer, because there are new ones coming online all the time.
Okay.
Just over the last week, I've had like 4 different ones that are starting to come online, find me online and pitch to me wanting me to write about them. And like they're not developed enough yet, so it's not something that I'm ready, because I need to see some data. Like I can't just go in and go, well, this thing is a thing, because I don't write press releases. I'm looking into the investment potential.
Okay. Who is now you have written, I've seen a few of your articles already. Who has been around the longest, as far as you know?
Well, the metaverse is kind of a complicated concept, but if you wanted to talk about the first thing that we would recognize as a metaverse or as a metaverse platform, it would be something called Second Life. And Second Life was founded in 2003. So it's been around quite a while, and people have bought and held a lot of the real estate there. They're making passive sort of income off of it, as far as like as rental units. You can almost think about a lot of it is the residential that is really hard for people to kind of grasp, and it's kind of like almost like Airbnb style, where you can rent it for like by the week.
So, all right, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. So if I buy a house, how do I mean, obviously I can't go live in it.
You cannot.
I have a lot of questions, I guess. How can I make money off of that? Just banking on appreciation?
Well, there are right now, the field is pretty wide open. For the bigger metaverses, the ones that we're more interested in looking at, because they have a little bit of data behind them, and there's some commercial companies moving in and that sort of thing, and they have real estate available in the way that we look at real estate. It has to have like they're selling real estate lots as NFTs, so they're individual. They have essentially have deeds, where there are some other platforms that don't sell real estate in a way that it can be recorded like that. So those aren't the ones I'm talking about. But as far as the ones that we're looking at, largely they're things like Decentraland and the Sandbox. And the way that people are making money right now is kind of twofold. Like the appreciation is absolutely a thing. the more people that are interested, the more these lots are gaining value. The central land has actually been around since 2017. And initially the lots sold for like $300 or $400 a piece. Now they're selling for $15,000. And this is just for what would be considered a residential lot.
You've got a guest.
I don't. I mean, my guest speaker has been here a while.
See, they don't understand any of this stuff either. So,
Settle down.
so oh yeah, go ahead. So if I buy a house and I can rent it, so I can bank on some appreciation. How do I rent it out? Do I actually receive cash for that?
No. Yes,
No.
kind of. Everything in the metaverse, most transactions in the metaverse are done in cryptocurrency. So it is a sort of currency. Like you can take it to an exchange and trade it for cash. Like you can do that.
Okay.
It turns into cash very easily, but no one's going to give you like a bag of $100 bills.
Right.
I mean, I guess you could, but that's not really what it's.
I take that. Yeah. How do I put a value on that? I mean, I guess I'm trying to figure out is how do I put a value on if I'm going to be renting it out? You know, what's my rental rate? What's my acquisition rate?
That's a lot harder right now to figure out.
Yeah.
A lot of this is spitballing, just to be quite honest, but a lot of it is also just based on the same kind of measures that we would use in the real world. You know, there are other properties that are being rented. There are other properties that are being sold. And so what are those properties going for? What are people willing to pay? And, you know, these kind of elements, it's not really any different. But the bigger money, which I'm sorry I didn't get to that because the dog started freaking out. But the bigger money right now is in the commercial side.
Oh yeah, I get the commercial side. It's a residential. I don't see. And let me step back a second, Kristi. Is how do I find that data on what has sold and what is being rented out with the lease rate?
So right now the leases are not. There's not really a good way to find those.
Okay.
A lot of them are being done like privately,
Okay.
but there is a marketplace. There are lots of marketplaces, in fact, for sales, and sales are, you know, because they're blockchain based, all the sales are tracked as they go. And like, if you buy something through one of the major third-party platforms, it will have a history on the property.
Okay.
And the one that I like to use for data, like if I need data, I go to nonfungible.com, because they have quite a bit of marketplace data on the bigger metaverses.
Okay. Now I know that I've seen, and I think this is mostly residential, but there are real estate agents that are now in the metaverse selling these assets as well, correct?
There are, and they're also doing commercial.
Okay.
It makes it easier for people to connect with business entities that way, because they, you know, if you've held a piece of property, you know, let's say you were there from the beginning and you've held this piece of property in a commercial district and you just were like messing around with it. And now you're thinking, well, you know, Snoop Dogg wants to come in and build a virtual head shop or whatever. And you have to figure out a way to, you know, you as an individual may have a very hard time getting in front of major businesses,
Right.
but a lot of these people have connections and different ways to access.
Sure. Yeah, I think now I've seen that Nike has gone in and they're in there. They're actually creating clothing lines in the metaverse.
Sure, Nike, Adidas.
Yeah.
A lot of the and a lot of the luxury brands like Gucci has a big thing on, I believe it's on Roblox. They had a big whole event.
Yeah, but I see why. I mean, they're going in and their branding is identical and they're doing it before somebody else does it.
Absolutely.
It's amazing opportunity. Okay, so let's move on to commercial. So I find an asset I want. Now in commercial real estate, as you know, I look at traffic count, demographics. Can you find a lot of that information for commercial?
You have to be a lot more intimate with the platforms than Because again, a lot of that data, those data sets just don't really exist yet. The data is there somewhere, but I am hesitant to say that anyone has actually captured it in a way that's public. Like there's no National Association of Realtors or anything like that. Those people who are in the metaverse and are selling commercial property, they have their own metrics and they use their own data sets.
Yeah. So I can go in, I can buy a nice piece of property on a well-trafficked street, and I could reach out to, any of these Nike, Adidas, any of those, and say, hey, would you like to lease this out? And then I guess since there's not really that much data, you kind of have to figure out what they're willing to pay.
Pretty much.
So now, do those big companies, corporations have representatives that they're dealing with this specifically? Probably, right?
I would assume yes. I would assume they have someone that is very well versed in what this is, because it's, you mentioned demographics, and that's the big thing. Like this is a marketing tool for them.
Sure.
But it also behaves like real estate. So you need someone with a very specific background.
Yeah. Holding title is it's just going to be in the blockchain, so we don't have to really about holding title anyway, correct?
Well, title's held. Let me step back. So when these lots were built or when they were developed, instead of taking a piece of land and going to city council and having the plat approved and all those things you have to do to develop land, someone went to the blockchain that whichever platform lives on, because there are multiple blockchains, and they designated each of these individual lots as an NFT.
Okay.
It's a non-fungible token. And essentially what that means, non-fungible, just means that, it's unique, and it's a token, which is, just like a thing, basically.
Yep.
And so each one of these NFTs has its own individual specific description on the blockchain, and it has its own entry. So when you go to purchase a lot, that particular lot, that you'll access that, for lack of a better word, you access that file, which is not exactly what it is, but let's pretend. And let's just make this easy. So basically you would open up what is essentially that file, and this all happens very automatically, like it's very fast. And the owner is transferred, the owner transfer happens immediately. And then you just, once the data is verified, because that's one of the nice things about blockchain, is that most of them use techniques that require more than one computer verify something is true before it can be written to the blockchain. So that's how they avoid problems with fraud.
Sure.
They check that everything is on the up and up. And so once it's been verified by however many computers it was required to be verified by, then sorry, my brain just stopped.
Got a lot of activity happening.
A lot going on right now.
Well, we did it, just for those watching, we did a video on NFTs. If you go on our page, you can go back and see a video that we did a few months ago.
There you go. But essentially, the NFT is the title, and you can't hold the NFT though because it's not real. Like you can't touch it, but you can put it into. You have to have a digital wallet to put it into, and so in that way you hold it, and you have proof that you own the property. And
you got a lot going on there. I get it.
It's the mail. See, in the blockchain, or in the metaverse, this wouldn't happen. I could just mute everyone.
Yeah, exactly. That's all right. Are there, now let's say I buy a property and I've contacted a major brand, Tiffany's or somebody, and they have a specific building type they want to be in. Are there any building restrictions or any code restrictions I need to worry about?
I mean, this is going to vary based on which platform you're on, but
Right.
in general, there aren't really, there's no P&Z in the metaverse.
Okay.
I think down the line, that's going to become something that is a thing because, as I was on Fool Live last, a couple weeks ago now, and we were talking about this.
Mhm.
And, something that Deidre brought up was that we, there's not really any way to prevent someone from building something horrific next door to you.
Yeah, right next to you.
And I think because of the way that anything that's done in a blockchain type capacity is also kind of very democratic. So, if something's changed, all the owners have to vote on it. And I
Okay.
think that's one of those things that may come into existence. Like, I don't think there'll be HOAs in the blockchain or anything like that, or in the metaverse, but I do think at some point there are going to be some kind of
Yeah, I would say they're
rules.
probably gonna have to be size restrictions and that kind of stuff.
Well,
but-
I mean, there is a size restriction technically because your lot's only so big.
Right.
And you can only build to the edges. Like, it's not like in the real world where you can be like, oops, I'm 6 feet over, because it literally stops.
Right. But can you buy multiple lots and then combine them?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. How much is there well, I guess if there's no restriction, I can say there has to be a balance between residential and commercial. Otherwise, you're just gonna have all commercial, because if you can lease it out to these high-end brands, I mean, you're gonna get all commercial, right?
You'd be surprised.
Really?
In
Okay.
Decentraland specifically, there are lots of commercial zones that are designated.
Okay.
And when you look at them on the little map, when you're looking to buy them, it's like kind of like a heads up map.
Yeah.
If you go into the actual platform versus using like nonfungible.com, you can see the heads up map and it'll show you different characteristics of the property and different things about the property that you might need to know.
Okay.
And on the heads up map, like the commercial districts are all like green, big green blocks. And so they're kind of designated, so there's kind of suggested areas where commercial would be. But if you were going to do something that was kind of the equivalent of like a general store,
Yeah.
you could probably plop that anywhere you wanted to.
Okay. It seems you're gonna have to do a lot of due diligence when doing this stuff to really. It's not
Absolutely.
just finding the right platform, which, I think sounds like that can be a process in the first place. But now, if I want to sell my virtual real estate, is there a special place I need to go? Is there a place to market it to? There's no central.
There's no central place. Again, just like purchasing it, you can go straight to the platform. You can go to Decentraland and go to their marketplace and list it there. Then a lot of people will have access to the listing and they'll see what you have for sale.
Right.
Or you can go to a third-party platform like OpenSea or nonfungible.com where they have the same kind of listings. And
Okay, so as a private individual, I assume that was the Metaverse company was selling that, but you can resell on those platforms.
oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, something like 2/3 of the transactions last month were resells versus
Okay.
purchasing from the platform. So yeah, there's a lot of that going
Okay. And you have to use cryptocurrency. You can't use real cash, correct?
on. Most of the time they are in either the platform's currency, which is sometimes it's a specific currency for the platform, and sometimes they use Ethereum. A few of them will use just straight up Ethereum, so they didn't have to make a coin. And but within that, there's something called a stable coin, which is basically tagged to a currency, real world currency, for lack of a better word. And stable coins you can go into a crypto platform and purchase them. So like if I wanted to buy $10 worth of US dollar stable coins, I'd just put $10 in and whatever the fee was, and it would be $10 of the coins.
Okay. Now, when you're selling it, you have to pay a commission too. Do you know about what those commissions are?
I don't think there's anything in this universe yet that is really set in stone.
Oh,
I think that's kind of the biggest thing. There are so much of it is highly variable, and we're just the thing is that although this world, it has existed since 2003, it's been very, very, very niche for, well, since then, really.
sure.
And about sometime like midsummer, it started getting really, people started getting really, really interested in the metaverse all of a sudden, just out of nowhere. And everything just went off like crazy. So you're going from a community that's really small and limited, and where basically they handle their own stuff, to a world that is just like so insanely on fire
Yeah.
that there's just not, someone asked me over the weekend for some more data, and there is not enough long-term data to be able to say anything for certain.
Yeah.
But as someone who has been in the real estate market, who has been a property developer, done all kinds of different things with real estate, this is an opportunity to get into something that is really unique, but has all the same characteristics as real world real estate. And as the real world is getting harder and harder to find, like building lots, that was a huge problem. The last report for the National Home Builders Association, they were saying that home builders can't find enough lots, which is not surprising at all. So people are having a hard time getting onto the equity ladder, and so this may be an alternative to that, because younger people, especially like younger than us, are, they're much more used to interacting in these kind of environments, and they spend more of their time in these kind of environments. And so for them, this is every bit as real as the real world in a lot of aspects, because they do all their socializing, they can do all kinds of different kinds of like
Sure.
events and entertainment functions. Obviously we've talked about shopping, shopping
Right.
there.
Yeah.
So for them, it's very much like the real world. And so I think there is a huge potential opportunity here, but it's going to have to be something that we understand is extremely speculative.
Yeah.
But if it hits, it's going to hit so hard.
Oh, it already, I mean, for those kind of returns to start off at $400 and now they're 15,000, that's not a bad return.
Yeah,
And
no.
I had no idea it'd been around since 2003. That floored me. 217, I would have believed it, but I just have started hearing of it really the last year and a half.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I mean,
regularly.
people have just started getting interested in like crypto coins and all these kinds of things recently.
Sure.
So it all kind of goes together.
Well, Mark Zuckerberg said this is the next chapter of the internet. So this metaverse it sounds like it's here to stay. And but there are a lot of questions. I think it is highly speculative, where you don't have data to back a lot of this stuff up. It's going to be pretty tough to get into it and really make decent money. But you can get into a platform that's been around a while that everybody wants to be on, and it's just going to take a lot of research and finding the right community for you.
And something else, if you don't mind my adding,
Sure.
there's one REIT that has just started up that is based on, now it's not a REIT like we think about
Right.
On the stock market. It's on a crypto exchange,
Okay.
but it's calling itself the Metaspace REIT.
Okay.
And they've invested in lots across like a whole bunch of different platforms to kind of spread the risk out, which if you have a bunch of money to throw at this, that is the absolute way to do it.
That's good advice, because they've got I don't know the company, so I don't want to say.
Yeah, I don't know the company well enough to know how they're doing it.
That would save a lot of time, because to do the research, if there's that many platforms out there, finding the right one is going to be,
right.
It's going to be such a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, if you're involved in the space already, or you have like a kid who's really into it, you have kind of a shortcut. And I honestly don't know that, I don't think there's going to be one winner here. I think we're looking at a world that's, forgive me for saying it like this because
Right.
it all sounds crazy, but I think we're looking at something that's more like planets versus one city, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or like walled cities, maybe you might think of them that way, because there's not enough lots on any one of these platforms to maintain much of a population. So you're going to see this interest like spread across all of these different platforms. But the newer ones that are just now coming online are the ones that I'm just kind of scratching my head at, because there's no data to back them. We
Yeah.
don't really know anything about these people because they're not, it's not a stock, so it's not regulated in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
It's treated more like a video game company, which is just a company,
Mhm. So how do these companies that are creating these metaverses, how do they make money? Just selling off the real estate or leasing it?
They have, it's a good question because I don't really know what their business models look like.
Right.
Because you can go to, as a user, you can go into the metaverse and you can just like use the platforms for free. But there are some of them I imagine will go to the what do they call it, freemium, the freemium model, where you can use it for free, but if you want any upgrades, you have to pay for those. That's
Okay.
when making video game companies like just tons of money. And of course, they've got the lots they can sell, and the one of them that approached me over the holiday, their plan was to sell, I've written a piece, or maybe I got it queued up for this week, but I've got a piece somewhere in the works on billboards, on being a billboard landlord, basically, in the metaverse.
Okay.
And billboard advertisement is something that is really intriguing in that space because it's cheap and it's efficient, and you don't have to really do much to make it happen. And this particular platform, they were asking me, they approached me and I asked them, they mentioned their billboards, and I asked them, like, well, I don't quite understand how this works, because in most platforms, if you want to build a billboard and advertise on it, you just build a billboard on your lot and advertise on it. And what they were doing is, instead of that, they were erecting the billboards and charging and like keeping a percent of the profit.
Mm-hmm.
So that one in particular is making money off ad revenue, essentially.
I swear to God, if they bring back the bus bench advertising, every residential real estate agent is going to jump on that.
We still have those where I live.
Oh, we have them here in LA too. I mean, obviously they're effective because I do notice them, but yeah. Well, Kristi, this has been very informative. I am a little confused. I got to figure out the residential side of this. The commercial side, I really understand. I mean, I see that it's a big opportunity here. You just need to make sure that, do you have any idea how big this opportunity is? It's got to be billions of dollars in real estate, right?
There's literally no way to know right now because it has no cap.
Yeah.
At this moment. But if you have a minute, we can talk about the residential side a little bit.
I mean, you're buying a house you can't live in. And so I guess you're really banking on what? The sense of community?
Yes. I mean, the big thing is about, well, let me take a step back here. So keep in mind that the demographics for these things are people a lot younger than us, and who have spent their entire, I know, dude, but they've spent their entire lives living in, spending part of their real world lives living in these virtual worlds.
Right.
So for them, having a virtual apartment is not really weird. Like, it's not strange to them. It's totally something that makes sense, because they can go in there and they can have their own sense of space, and they put up whatever they want on the walls. And
is it a one-time fee, or let's say I don't know, are they selling condos in the metaverse?
Not yet, but I expect that's coming.
Okay. Are there mortgages?
Would you be surprised if I said yes? There's one company that is working on, or that has already issued a couple of loans against NFTs, using NFTs as security. So kind of, yes.
So there are mortgages.
There are mortgages.
Taxes?
No, not yet. but we don't know
that
who
will
governs.
come.
We don't know who governs the metaverse yet. It doesn't.
Right. Whoever created it probably. All right. Insurance.
No.
No insurance.
I mean, what would you insure against?
Trip and fall.
My dog bit you in the
Fire.
metaverse. I'm so sorry. I don't know, honestly. There really should probably be something like that.
Probably.
Because, you know, if you think about it, like, what if you go in and you live next, like, you're renting something and you accidentally delete something that's really valuable? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, is there a way to get to access the backups? Can you get that restored, or are you just like really screwed?
That's actually, yeah. Yeah, there might be an opportunity there.
I mean, that's the thing is, when this went mainstream this summer or this fall, a whole lot of questions got asked that have never been asked before. And
Right.
people are actively trying to solve them.
Right. Pet restrictions. Oh, is there dog kennels? Are there dog kennels in the metaverse?
I mean, there could be. It literally.
Everybody has a dog and they love them, right? So I think people would pay for it.
Sure.
But I'm sure there's no restrictions for that.
I'm
trying to think of ways to make money on this.
I mean, you're not going to have to worry about like noises or you don't have to have noisy dogs or anything like that. So
yeah, no, it's
you don't
just
have
I'm
to
trying
worry
to
about
figure out a way that we could make some money on this. Well, and I think it's growing, and it's growing quickly.
It is. And
I'm very thankful that I've met you and I can sit and read your articles and understand them. And thank you for coming on today, Kristi. I know it was a challenge. You got your guys in the background running there for us.
I am so sorry about that. I don't know why
it's
they're
quite
so
all right.
scrolled up today.
Quite all right.
Yeah, I've got a piece coming out today that talks about how the pandemic has actually catapulted the metaverse into kind of hyperspace.
Okay.
That might be an interesting read for you.
Yeah, I'll check it out. All right, Kristi, any final insights we could give our viewers?
You know,
Be careful.
Be careful. That really is a good one. You know, if you're interested in buying the metaverse, it's just like any other speculative investment. Make sure that you can afford to lose whatever you're putting in. Don't put grandma's 401k in there. Just, you know, use your birthday money.
Be smart about it.
And, you know, if it hits, then you've really got something.
Yep.
And, you know, but also it's real estate. It really is real estate. It's in every sense of the word, besides the fact that there's no physical earth that you can touch. So when you approach it, do it just the way you would any other piece of real estate. You know, think about comps, think about neighborhoods, think about highest and best use, and all those kinds of things, you know, that.
Yeah.
And
you know, one last thing I had, are there schools in the metaverse?
Yes.
There are.
Kind of. Like everything, the answer is kind of. So there are more educational programs getting involved in metaverse spaces.
Okay.
Roblox specifically, I think that was the one I was reading about over the weekend. And the piece that I just wrote actually talks about this. They have been working on doing like STEM programs for years, and they're trying to expand that now, especially with the pandemic on and kids being in and out of school a lot. They're trying to put more and more educational programs into their platform so that like younger kids, like elementary age primarily, are still engaged with like school kind of work while they're away from school, but also like they have like summer programs and there's even a virtual high school that I found online, but I don't know how reputable this place is. But it literally is like a campus where you walk around and there are classes you can take, and it's just
actual classes.
Yeah, and they're actual teachers and actual students.
Man, people have thought this out. Okay. Well, if you want to find Kristi, Motley Fool, do you know the Motley Fool website off the top of your head?
Yeah, it's fool.com.
Cool. Oh, perfect. That was nice and easy. Kristi, thank you very much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me, Joe, and my dog.
I think I'm gonna have a lot more questions down the road, but all right. For those of you watching, thank you for watching today. And if you haven't done so, please do subscribe. And we did do, I don't remember how many months ago we did on real estate NFTs. So with Kristi. So make sure you go check that out as well. And again, subscribe, follow, or like, and we'll see you again next week.